Good morning, everyone. Hope that you are doing well. Today, we are going to be doing a little bit of a garden harvest, and also we're going to be collecting seeds from a lot of the stuff that we pick up today. So, it's been a couple of weeks since I've been out here. As you can see, stuff has grown up all over the door. So, we've got to find our entrance here, and then we can maybe see what we have growing. So first up here, we've got some butternut squash. So these can actually probably get at least 2 or 3 times this size. This area was pretty shaded, so I'm actually pretty surprised that I've got anything that have actually produced fruit over here. So this butternut squash is not quite ready, so we'll leave it on the vine for a little bit longer. I like to let them turn a good orange color, but don't leave them on too long or they'll rot like this. So next we have some Marmande tomatoes. These have been such a great tomato. I'm absolutely in love with these. So this is my first year growing these. And I mean, they're really just kind of like a basic beefsteak tomato, but they are extremely prolific and they are like beaten through all of the brush here. And moving on, here we have some mushrooms. I have no idea what kind of mushrooms they are, and I don't know if it's the sign that my soil is good or bad in this case, but they're there. And next we have the butternut squash, I believe, or honey nut squash, excuse me. So these are supposed to be a smaller and sweeter type of butternut squash. So as you can see, as I'm pulling these off the vine, they are significantly smaller than most of the butternut squash and a darker orange. And moving on down the line here, I've got some lemon drop watermelon that is not doing so hot. I'm not actually sure that that fruit is going to be able to produce any seeds for me. That's actually my main goal this season, is to just kind of get seeds from everything. Here we have a China jade cucumber. These have been extremely prolific, and I didn't even realize it because I hadn't been out here in a couple of weeks, but you'll see. So this one actually looks really good, so we'll be able to preserve that one. And then here is what they look like when they've been sitting on the vine for a minute and turned yellow. That's not squash, that's a cucumber with a spider on it. So this is another one of those China jade cucumbers. Some of them, the ends were starting to turn yellow or maybe a little floppy, so they just kind of got thrown down the hill a little bit. But the ones that were completely yellow, we saved seeds from, and then the ones that were good, of course, we're going to keep those and use them. In this mess of stuff, it looks like we've got some ground cherries or maybe tomatillos. Yeah, those are tomatillos. And then we also have, I believe, some zinnia popping up here. At first, I thought it was calendula because it was like a yellow-orange, but the leaves, looking at it, it looks like zinnia. But that is fine. We've got like a whole other patch on the other end of the bed too. And then next up, we're going to be picking some of this patty pan squash. So this is a white bush variety. So these have been pretty prolific as well. I've gotten a lot of those little squash off of there, and they have pushed right on through the season, even through the squash bugs and the blight and the powdery mildew. So we've got little bees sleeping in flowers, and now we are going to continue through the jungle and check out our patch of zinnias here. Now, right here, we have some shishito peppers. These are a pretty prolific pepper. I really like these, and these are one that if you kind of roast them or fry them up a little bit, they taste really good. The taste is completely different. So here we have some, I believe, comfrey that is starting to go to flower or seed. We'll have to come out here and collect a lot of herbs and stuff. And then here we have some oregano. So I've got a few spots of oregano that are peeking through, and then also some spearmint. So over here we have this massive pepper plant. This thing has got to be like 4 foot tall, and I'm not exactly sure what it is. I can't find any peppers on it, but I'm pretty sure that it is an Arrows Compollo pepper, which would be magnificent as long as I can at least get some peppers from it. Well, not necessarily. I can actually dig this pepper plant up and cut all of the stems back and kind of overwinter it if I don't get any seeds from it. So our mystery pepper plants on the other side, on the outside of the fence, they actually ended up being jalapeno peppers, of course. But I've got several plants of those, which is great. I really like to make pickled jalapenos and then cowboy candy from that. Next, we have our Boston pickling cucumbers. So I noticed that a few of these were on here, and then at one point I just kind of let them keep growing so that I could get the seeds from them. So I think I've got like 4 cucumbers here that I'll be saving the seeds from. So that's going to be an unreasonable amount of seeds to save, but we're going to do it. And then finally, the green beans are starting to go to flower. So I might be able to get a handful of them before the season is up. We've still got another 4 to 6 weeks, I think. Right here I have a volunteer tomato, and I'm not entirely sure what it is. So it either has to be like Barry's crazy cherry tomato, a Sun Gold Select #2, or some kind of hybrid with a yellow pear tomato, because those are the only colors like that that have grown. So this is a golden Jenny melon vine, or a few of them. They are starting to succumb to powdery mildew, it looks like. But I do have a couple of fruits that I'm hoping to be able to save seeds from. At least one of them, I'm just trying to let them get as ripe as possible. And then same thing here, we have some Kajari melons. I did have another melon on here that was much bigger, but it just disappeared. I can only assume it was the groundhog. He just up and walked away with it. But these will change into like a golden color scheme. Right now they're still super green. And then up front, I have loofah vines growing. So I don't think that I'm going to have enough time for these to grow and produce fruit with seeds. They are just now going to flower. So they are kind of notorious for taking a pretty long time to come to maturity. So we'll see what happens there. And then this is what the flowers look like. So we've got our garden hole here. Everything on the left is just needs to be preserved. And then on the right side, all of the yellow stuff, we need to get the seeds from that. So we will just kind of jump straight in, and I'll show you how to collect the seeds from cucumbers, squash, and also tomatoes. So pumpkins are going to kind of fall in with squash, but I don't have any of those today. So grab a knife and a spoon or something to scoop with and a cutting board, and let's get to it. So the first method, we are going to be just kind of cleaning up the seeds and letting them dry. So versus the second method, where we will ferment all of the goop off of the seeds and then kind of rinse them and dry. So this first method is kind of a quicker or more of a one and done type thing if you have other things that you need to worry about and you know you're not going to come back to it. So this way we are going to scoop out the seeds. The way that I like to cut the cucumber is just kind of down the side. I don't like to cut any of the squash or the cucumbers or anything down the middle, because you're going to be cutting through the seeds and you will cut through the seeds and lose a lot of them. So it's not necessarily a big deal because there are tons of seeds here, but we'll just save what we can and, not lose what we don't have to. So pick out all of the cucumber that you can. As you can see, these seeds are decently clean. You will have a lot of juice run out of cucumbers, so just be aware of that. Now I have a splatter screen. This has got to be one of my favorite tools for seed saving. So just take and scoop the seeds off onto the screen, and then we're going to go over to the sink and kind of exfoliate them, if you will. So this will take a minute if you're gonna be doing this with the cucumber seeds. It's easier with the tomato seeds to just straight out clean them and easier to ferment most of the others. But as you can see, I just kind of cleaned those off the best that I could and drained them into my little sink strainer thing. And now we're gonna wipe these down. So when we're wiping this down, you're gonna see that a lot of like the casing is still on there. So it's going off on my towel there, so just kind of be mindful of that, and we're gonna switch to paper towels after this. So you just want to transfer the seeds over to your paper towel and then wipe them down again. So like rub the paper towel across the seeds, and then you're gonna keep continuing this process until you feel like the seeds are mostly dry or they don't have any of that gel casing on them. That will cause them to mold if you don't get all of that, or at least most of it off of there. So as you can see, doing this, what I would classify as the hard way, cleaning it from start to finish, I have gone through probably about 3 or 4 different transfers with the cucumbers here. So now I feel like they're pretty dry, and I'm just going to sprinkle them on a labeled paper towel, and these are going to dry for, I don't know, about a week or so at least, depending on your humidity, and you'll know that they're dry because the seeds will snap. So don't put up seeds when they're bendy because they will mold. Then they're done that. Now, the next easier way to do your cucumber seeds is you just cut off all of the sides. So you just have the center with the seeds. Take and squeeze the seeds into a bowl. Take and throw that extra pulp into your scrap bucket here, and you can throw this in your compost, feed it to chickens or birds. If your fruit isn't too bad off, you can even preserve some of the pickles if they're not, or some of the cucumbers if they're not too old. So once you've got it all squeezed out, again, just try and remove as much of that cucumber pulp as possible. And then, this if you're gonna be doing a lot of cucumbers, this is probably the easiest way, or just seed saving in general. If you're gonna be saving a lot of seeds, fermentation is probably the easiest way because it's gonna remove a lot of that gunk without a lot of labor. Now we're gonna take our bowl and fill it with water. You can fill it up with water and then strain off the liquid and then fill it up again if you're comfortable doing that, but you might lose some of your seeds if you're not careful. And then just set it to the side and come back to it after 24 to 48 hours. Now, as for squash, so these are a little bit different when you cut them. So the seeds are much drier, and depending on the shape of your squash or the variety, that's going to be more dependent on where your seeds are going to be located. So you're seeing like this patty pen squash, the seeds are in the middle, and I'm having to break it up like this. But when we go to the yellow squash, it'll be a little bit more different. So these seeds are drier, but you still have a lot of the stringy flesh, and you do want to remove that because it can still mold. So again, we're just going to do the fermentation method on these, and we're going to squeeze off the seeds into our jar, fill it up with water, and then we're going to let it sit on the counter again for 24 to 48 hours, no longer than that, because if you do leave your seeds sitting in water for an extended amount of time, then they'll start going bad. So they'll actually begin to germinate if you leave them in the water. Now moving on to our yellow squash here. I believe that this one is a straight neck. I had grown crook neck squash, which I tried to save seeds from earlier this year, but they molded because I didn't wait until they were completely dry to put them up. And then we have our straight neck here. As you can see, I'm doing like I did with all the other stuff, just cut her on the edges and don't cut through the middle unless you're prepared to lose some seeds, which when I cut down the side, I did actually skim some of those seeds off. So don't worry, whenever you go and put your seeds into the water, bad seeds are going to float to the top, or ones that have been damaged or there's air in the cavity, those are going to float along with the pulp and all of the nasty stuff. So at the end of the fermentation period, you'll just be able to drain off everything that you don't want to keep, rinse your seeds, and then lay them out to dry. And lastly, in today's video, we are going to do tomatoes. So right now I'm taking this video from when I was making some sun-dried tomatoes, which I do have a recipe for, and I'll share that eventually. But I'm just squeezing out the seeds as I'm laying out the tomatoes on here. And I'm not trying to lose too much gel, so I'm just like lightly squeezing them. You can see that there's still seeds left in there. Now, with the tomatoes, you can either ferment that for a couple of days or you can immediately go and wash those seeds off. I really like to wash those on the splatter screen because it exfoliates the tomato seeds really well. So all of these seeds, I just straight washed them. I did not let them ferment, and I found that it was kind of easier with the tomato seeds, for me at least, but do what you want. So before we end the video, I do have a little bit of an announcement. So we're starting some social media. So I've got an Instagram, an Etsy, and a Facebook page set up. All of that will be linked below, so you can go check it out. In the Etsy store, we have like plants and soap right now, but who knows what will end up there. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you all have a great day. Bye.